Hello, and welcome to another money and mindset session with myself and Nazia. Apologies for us being a few minutes late. I put a comment in the post. Hopefully you saw that if you've been waiting for us to go live. If you're watching, do put hashtag live if you're with us right here today. If you're watching later, put hashtag replay. As we go through the live, our topic today is around what are your thoughts around manifesting money? And if you've got any questions, pop them in the comments. If you agree or disagree with what we're talking about, put it in the comments. And we'll be happy to either come back to you right now if you're doing this live or later on afterwards. So let's quickly do some introductions before we get stuck in. Nazia, let's come to you first. So we just let people know who you are in case they don't know.
Hello, everybody. I'm Nazia Hack from Nazia Hack Wealth Management, and I help people with money. Anything from spending it or saving it is what I do. I do a lot of planning. This morning, I was actually working with a client, speaking very much about probate and how to deal with what happens once somebody passes away. So ultimately, anything to do with pennies, I can help you and guide you in making them good decisions and educate your family members as well. So I'm doing a case where I'm having individual meetings with 5 grandchildren that are about to inherit some money. So it is a long process of helping people that I try to do. So it's not a transactional advisor. I'm here to basically support you through the different life journeys that you have.
Wonderful. Thanks, Nazia. And in case you don't know who, excuse me, don't know me, my name is Una Doyle. I'm a business strategist and coach. And you might be wondering, what's the 50K in 50 minutes thing? Basically, I have a session where I can help any business to unlock at least 50K in extra revenues in only 50 minutes without having to spend any extra money on marketing or ads. So, yeah, I think this topic that we have here today. Oh yeah, and by the way, if you want to know how I do that, ask me for a video, and I can share that with you. That shows you exactly how I do that. Yeah. So our topic today, manifesting money. So it's a really interesting one because I think people often are kind of quite polarized when it comes to this. So they're, either kind of like, oh yeah, absolutely, I've done this, or I'm attempting to do it, and other people are like, what a whole load of nonsense. So where do you sit on that continuum, Nazia?
Oh, funny. Strange. Yeah. I think for me, I'm definitely a believer that you've got to want something for it to happen. Okay. And I do think that, and there's a film out there, I've forgotten the name of the film. Yeah. Where ultimately they kind of go out putting these numbers out, and it's the number that you end up choosing. So if you have a number in your mind, it's what's going to materialize. It's like when you buy a red car, and you see lots of red cars suddenly. And before that, you never saw a red Mercedes, and suddenly everybody's got one. So I think there is something to be said. Is it manifestation, or is it just the way our brain channels that energy? I don't know. But the truth is, I believe that if you don't have a number in mind, you're not getting there. Okay. Out of all odds, because you can't create a pathway to receiving something if you haven't even planned that you want it. So wanting it is a massive step in receiving it. So is that manifestation? Is that hocus pocus? Is another whole debate. But I genuinely believe, yes, you've got to want something enough for it to actually happen. So when people talk a lot about their negative thinking or negative belief system, or maybe historically what happened to them in childhood, if that's what their whole dialogue and narrative is, that's the kind of narrative they're going to attract, because that's where all their focus is and that's what they see more. It's a bit like whatever glasses you wear is what you're going to see. Okay. So it's like putting on the glasses of a positive vision is what you're going to kind of attract that. Are you attracting it, or are you kind of selecting it consciously or subconsciously is the question.
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing, and as you say, we can't 100% know for sure. So yes, that clarity on what you want, and I think the other thing that goes with that is also being willing to take action. So I have found it amazing the number of times when I have set made a decision. I think that's the thing, when you make a decision, the root of the word decision means to cut off. So
Yeah.
you're cutting off other options. You're deciding on a particular path, a particular thing, a particular number, as it might be in this case. And I do think it's important to have the clarity of what you want, and yes, to want it. And I think there is a level of belief there as well.
Yeah.
And this is where I think a lot of people fall down. And I used to, like, a huge amount, experience this as well, where um where I wanted something, but there was a part of me that didn't believe that I deserved it or that it was possible. And a lot of the time, people get stuck, particularly the more analytical people, will get stuck on, well, how is it going to happen? And when they can't see a way that it's going to happen, then they don't believe that it's possible, and then they're shutting down opportunities. So one of the things that you're referring to there is what's called the reticular activating system. When you said you buy a red car and suddenly you see red cars everywhere, or even when you're just thinking about it, you might not even have purchased it. And so that's a part of our brain that draws our attention to what our brain thinks we consider to be important. Now,
Yeah.
this was, you know, absolutely vital when, if you go back to the Stone Age, when it was important to know if a lion was coming for you, or a bear, or some kind of treacherous animal, or anything like that. So it's basically, originates from a self-defense mechanism. It's something, though, that we can really utilize to help us to achieve our goals. And this is one of the reasons why I love helping people to create 90-day plans, because then not only do they actually set some goals, but they actually have got some ways of achieving them.
Yeah.
And I think for those bigger goals, we I think just acknowledging we don't have to know the little detail of everything. We just need to know the next few steps, the next few weeks, or the next 90 days, as it is with the planning that I do. And there's something magical. Actually, I can give you an example of this. So as part of my 90-day plan, and I kind of just tweaked a couple of things in it actually just last week, for this quarter. And I decided to drop some, just because of some things that had happened. I had to tweak it a bit. And so I dropped one project, and I decided, right, I'm going to focus on doing some PR. It's something that I have knowledge in. I spent 7 years working in agencies doing public relations, and I've been in recent years, I've been really bad, like, at doing my own PR. So social media and stuff, yes, I've been doing that, but not proper PR where you're actually getting articles, getting on radio and TV and things like that. And since then, I've had one person approach me about being on BBC Radio. I'm waiting to kind of hear back whether that's going to happen or not. And then I was at an exhibition yesterday. So I was exhibiting down at the Chester Business Show and doing a talk there, and got to speak to some people who are launching a new business magazine. And they've asked me to contribute to the magazine. And it's not like one of these advertorial filled ones. This is like proper articles, that people will want to read and things. And so, did I manifest that? Is it coincidence? It could be, but I just love the way, the number of times when I've set a goal and then something drops in my lap. But here's the thing, particularly when it comes to manifesting money, is that we need to create channels for that money to come to us. Okay, and not always. Okay, like, I think when we were doing the clubhouses, there was one day, wasn't there, where I'd gotten a refund from the bank. It came out of nowhere. I got a check for like 450 quid or something. And it was like, oh, perfect. So, things like that can happen. We can suddenly get money out of nowhere, or a client comes from nowhere. But even like with that, we need to have offers in place that allow those things to come with us.
Yeah.
I've set I've set a big financial goal for my next 6 months. And interestingly enough, I had some very interesting conversations yesterday, which could transpire to contribute quite a bit towards that goal. Uh, but it's interesting, isn't it? If I didn't have a means for that to come to me, through the packages and programs that I have, then it would be a lot harder for me to receive it. So I think there's a few. I've talked about a few things there. I've talked about how our brain works. I've talked about belief and how important that is, and how we can get in our own way and sabotage. But also about the practical aspects of, like I now need to follow up with those people from those conversations. If I didn't follow up, which is something that in the past, like years ago, I was awful at that. It's not something that comes naturally to me, but I also was self-sabotaging. Whereas now it's like I already have worked with a team member. I did an otter last night, where I kind of made notes on everybody that I wanted to follow up with, and bits of our conversations, so that I can make sure that that actually happens. Whereas in the past, I often had opportunities but didn't follow through on them.
Interesting. So many points you brought up, and it's really strange. When we discussed doing this particular session, I was like, oh, I don't know what we're going to talk about. Like, it all comes on me, and then now I've got a million thoughts running around my head as you're speaking. And one of my clear memories of this was I'd say about 3 to 4 years ago. I was not in the best financial position, but I'd taken on a massive responsibility of office and a staff member as I set up my own practice. And I created what you call a vision board. And I'd read about this and people had mentioned it. But anyway, so I've got my board and I've still got it. I've removed everything because I've achieved most of it. And I started to cut things out. And I used to drive on the motorway and I used to love these black Mercedes GLC. They were bigger, spacious cars, and I have 2 grown-up children that are over 6 foot. And I'm not a woman that likes a lot of luxury items for the sake of luxury, for showing off. So I had to go through the process of understanding that particular car was not just a luxury. Yes, it is a bit of a luxury, but it's more of a necessity to get there because I've got grown-up kids playing rugby and I had a very young child as well. So to squash them all in was really challenging in my smaller Audi A3. So I cut it up and I put it on my vision board. And every day I would spend at least 5 minutes in front of my vision board. On there was things like honestly, it's now all coming back. I can visualize it. I had on there, I wanted to pay all my credit cards off. I wanted to go on holiday with my children. I wanted to go on holiday with my mum, which is something I hadn't done much of. And I wanted to move house. Okay. And with the house situation, I wanted my own house with this big kitchen, which would allow me to entertain with my family, and we could have this big table. So I had all them on the board, and I can confidently tell you within a 2-year period, I did pay off all my credit card debts off, and I've got none. And I did get that Mercedes. Within the early days I got it, I was like, oh my God, this really works. And I did move house, but not in the same circumstances as what I visualized. I had to move to a rented house, not going into the details of it, but I moved house. I haven't done a vision board for a while, but I am doing a vision board, let's goal set up, where I've invited people to come to on the 4th of December at a local restaurant. And what we're going to do in that is journal, teach people how to journal. We're going to do our vision boards, and we're going to plan what we want for 2022. And I know for a fact that if you plan, it's going to happen somehow or the other. It's like you kind of clear the pathways ready for it to arrive. And a couple of other things which is coming off there is things like money blocks. Okay, so I had a few of them. Okay, I had even though I'm a financial advisor and I've been working in my job for 12 years, but when I was able to make enough to cover my bills, I kind of would not want to I don't know, I wouldn't feel I wanted any more, because I didn't want to be greedy. I didn't, there was loads of bad associations that I had, that money upsets people, people make bad decisions. So I had to go through my own transformational process of trying to understand where they were coming and kind of come to terms with historical stuff that had happened in my childhood that was preventing me to allow for the money to arrive into my life. I had to find a purpose. So my biggest thing was I needed to know what it was going to be used for. Okay. And if it was going to be for good. And I had to kind of create that. Now I've done all that work. It's really mad. But yesterday I had a conversation that I'm potentially about to buy from another partner that's about to retire 100 clients. And I couldn't have imagined doing that a couple of years ago. But I'm in a position where I'm welcoming it. I'm allowing it to happen to me. So and there was another one that I kind of had a money block with, and a lot of people have this one, which is, oh my god, my tax bill is going to be huge. Oh my god. And you know what I do? This was my conversation with my accountant last week, because Nazia, just need to tell you, your tax is quite high. I brought my accounts forward. I'm in the process of purchasing a house. And I went, it's okay. And he went, are you okay with that? Because I'm sure every person he has a conversation with is going, yeah, oh my God, could you not bring it down anyway? So my conversation was quite different. I went, oh, that's fine. I said, can I just ask one more question? Did you use my car as a deductible expense? He went, yeah. I said, can you not do that? Because I actually don't use my car as much now, and I don't feel that I only use it really for personal, because majority of my meetings have now gone on to Zoom, or clients come to me. So I only want a proportion. And it was strange, because he was literally, I think, a little bit taken back, the fact that I'm welcoming a tax bill. Okay. Why am I welcoming a tax bill? A tax bill means I am growing, and it's okay. And I'm prepared for the tax bill as well. So
exactly.
So preparation for the tax bill, and that is a positive sign that I am growing. Okay, it is not a negative. Now, as obviously a tax planner and a financial planner, there's avenues that I can take to reduce that tax bill moving forward. Pensions being one of the areas that I will putting more into planning for my future. So I do have that magic number, and everybody should have a magic number. Okay, that means a number that you want to live off once you retire. Okay, and so what I do with clients is I work backwards. So you work with that magic number. So to arrive at that magic number, you will look at, will you have a mortgage at that time or rent to pay, your council tax, your food, and your holidays? What does that figure look like? Will you want to put towards your children's homes or school fees or love any cost, extra costs? Yeah. And that magic number will allow me then to work. You'd have to have X amount of pot of money to be able to have that. It's really shocking when I have this conversation with clients, because they don't realize how big that pot of money needs to be, even for £15,000 income. And then suddenly their mindset changes. They're like, actually, giving myself a pension contribution as a small, medium-sized business is not a luxury. It's actually a necessity.
Totally, yes.
I need to have that for my future. I meet clients also, unfortunately, that don't do any plannings and try to talk to me at age 60 going, Nazia, I didn't. I was so into like having my holidays and doing all the fun stuff. I just didn't. I wish I had. And you can't do anything. I mean, I can't. But when anything from 20 onwards, you can do something. Even if you hit 40, you can still make a difference if you start putting that thing. So like Albert Einstein said, one of the wonders of the world is compounding.
Indeed, yes.
And it's something that people need to get aware of. So yes, manifestation is not just hocus pocus. In simple terms, it's clearing out the old rubbish out of your system, your money blocks and what's stopping you, and creating a plan, and then not just sticking to it, because sticking to it is not as easy as that, because life's going to kind of carve different pathways. It's how you're going to work around the obstacles that life's going to present with you, illnesses, losing jobs. But if you've got the plan, you're going to be able to switch it on and off as life takes you there. So you can increase it, decrease it. So say to people, pensions aren't going to die with you. There's something that you're saving for the future, but they are going to live with you. So people have this mixed thing where they think, oh, it's going to die. No, that's what you call a final salary scheme that potentially may die. Okay, if it's not got a spousal thing in. So it's how people need to get more educated with that planning.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is invest the time in creating a plan, taking some advice and some guidance to understand why you're making the plan, okay? And why you're creating these numbers. Once you've done that, you will attract the right stuff because you'll stop giving your services out for free. That's one thing that'll start happening.
Oh, totally. And just discounting for no reason.
Yeah.
It's a big thing, and it's yeah, one of the things I was talking about in my talk yesterday. And I want to kind of pull out one of the things that you mentioned there is that you realized that you need to know what you're going to spend the money on.
Yes.
And I think this idea of purpose for money is so huge. And so, that's why. So I set a huge goal, a big, hairy, audacious goal, they call it, right? And it's for by 2030, my plan is to have helped small and medium-sized business owners to have unlocked 100 million in extra revenues. And by doing that, for me to be able to give back, to help create 1 million days of smiles. What does that actually mean? Well, through my partners B1G1, go and check them out, b1g1.com. That allows me to be philanthropic rather, in my business. Every time somebody buys from me, we make something good happen. And so that might be paying for women in India to get trained in how to sew, one I particularly like because I love to sew myself. There's contributing to microfinancing organizations that are helping women in Africa to set up their own businesses, helping beekeeping farmers through business support. I love that one because it's both environmental and income generating. Planting trees, same thing. Often those trees are used for income generation as well as helping places to be more green. And so there's hundreds and hundreds of worthy causes, through that. And so that really drives me, and it drives my team, because we have this powerful purpose that we talk about every week when we have our weekly meeting. Then that's one of the things we kick off with. Okay, first thing is good news from each person, so we can start off with some level of happiness and gratitude, and then next thing is, right, why are we here? Okay, this is what the company is about, and then we kind of go into actually holding the rest of the meeting. So I think even if it's just a simple thing of making sure that where your money is going, if it excites you to create big goals, for some people it excites them, for other people it's too scary, work with what works for you. Some people need to work in smaller steps. My husband's like that. So some people will feel overwhelmed by big things, but myself and a lot of the creators I work with, we like to have big goals, big visions. And that's what, if it ain't big, then we're not that interested, So we like to work in that way. So find out what works best for you, and make sure you've got some purpose behind that money. Whether it's as simple as, I know where I want the money to go, so here's a list of how I plan to spend the money, but also like what's meaningful for you. What's going to make you want to take action, even if you're feeling a bit off or tired or you've had a bad day, whatever it might be, that you're going, no, this is important, whether it's kind of directly for your family or is for a worthy cause that you care about, whatever it might be. And I think that's really key, because I think that adds another layer to the manifesting, and actually sometimes can help people get over the belief stuff as well to some extent. I do think, if you've got those money issues, and so many people do, think like a thermostat, right? I think this is a great way of looking at it, because the amount of times when people start looking at this, they'll kind of go, oh, I never seem to get past a certain point. I learned so much. And even if more money comes in, something happens that means that they need to spend that money on something they didn't want to, like a car repair, or something breaks down, or they literally physically lose the cash, or whatever it might be. And so, just like you got a temperature thermostat for your heating, we often have a money thermostat as to how much, what's the number that we feel comfortable with. And I remember once having a session I was doing around money mindset, and this woman said, the moment I get past a certain number, I feel really uncomfortable and I just give it away. So they consciously knew this, but a lot of people unconsciously are actually doing the same thing. That they'll find a way to lose that money. So yeah, have a purpose for it.
That's a very valid point, a purpose. And I think in a lot of faiths, there is this element of having a purpose with money. Okay. And as a Muslim, we have a purpose where we're supposed to give a zakat, which is a percentage of our profits to
they call it tithing in other religions.
Yeah, so I'm sure across the board it does exist. So as you get, being wealthy in every faith is not classified as negative. Okay,
exactly.
It's not a bad demon. It's a demon that we have created in our worldly life. But going back to spirituality of all different faiths, there's nothing wrong with it. Okay, but what's important once you are growing your little empire is to give back and support those that are a bit less privileged. Okay, so ultimately having that purpose really does make that massive difference, and I think that was one of my drivers. Okay, I love helping people, and I realized just by having small conversations with people and helping and guiding the odd two, if I had more money, I could even help even more. So through my gratitude community, I now have about 450 members, and I post regularly about how to be grateful. And being grateful is another stepping stone in manifesting, because when you're grateful and you're looking at your day from the eyes of being grateful, for some reason, no matter what trauma you go through that day, it doesn't hurt as much as it would if you weren't grateful as you woke up. So I can give you some really amazing examples. So if you wake up being grateful and you've done your gratitude, if your car breaks down like it did for me, you kind of are grateful that you still got your health. You're grateful for the fact you've got the money to pay the repair on your tire. It changes everything throughout the day for you. So my gratitude community was born from helping me, and then I kind of opened up to help other people to kind of make that a habit. But what that's leading to is that I felt that if I grew my business, I could help more people. Yeah, more people and support them, because that's the kind of energy that I have. So ultimately, having a bigger purpose does play a massive role in how much drive you have. Okay. I've also done a lot of, I know some people might notice, but I do a lot of stuff on looking after yourself now as well, which is something that I was not very good at. Self-care, spending money on yourself. But I've changed that a lot. And another thing that I've learned is you have to spend the money, okay, for more money to come. It's a real weird concept, but it's a bit like the bath. If you open the bath is going to overflow unless you utilize what you've got in a positive way, but it's okay. Oh, and it's okay to have aspirations for a bigger house. It's okay to have a mortgage as long as it's within your means. And that's really important to understand. You're not overstretching yourself. You're really within the means barriers. It's okay to get borrowing for a business expansion as long as it's within your means. So everything goes back to what is that saying about only spread your plate? There's a way saying about putting only so much to spread. that you don't overspread yourself. I don't know. I can't get the
Spreading yourself too thin?
Yes. So you're not spreading yourself too thin. That's it. I'm not
Yeah.
very good at it in my mind, but they don't sometimes pop out. So ultimately, having a purpose is a very good way of creating a plan. It is
Yeah.
another stepping stone. And I read a book, I don't know, many people might have, but Chimp Paradox, but your stone of life. Okay, stone of life in the book is very much about your moral compass. So check in with your stone of life. And if more money comes, trust me, nothing bad's going to happen. Because if your moral compass is
Mm.
in check, then it doesn't matter what happens. Your silly chimp isn't going to make any silly mistakes, okay? Because it's going to check in, with your moral compass. So have a good moral compass or a stone of life. Have a purpose. Create a plan, and you're well and truly on the way of manifesting what you want out of life.
Absolutely. I'm just looking in. I've got a note somewhere with a quote by Will Smith that I'm trying
I
to
do
find
like
where
this.
it is. Oh, here he is. Got it. Money and success don't change people. They merely amplify what is already there.
Absolutely.
Right? Will Smith. Smart guy, very smart guy.
Yes.
And he definitely appears to be someone who has a very strong moral compass as well. Um, I just absolutely love that because if you're somebody who likes to do good and you have more money, you can do more good. And I think that's really powerful. And it's something that quite often, sometimes people can be in a I mean, look, yes, there are greedy people in the world.
Yeah.
There are some big corporations that do very, what you could even say are evil things. Those things do happen,
Mm.
um, but that's not the vast majority of people in the world. It's just often what we hear about, or maybe something that we saw when we were growing up. But that's not the average person. The average person, tends to be more good than bad and wants to help and wants to improve things. And when we have that perspective, and I'm not talking about being Pollyanna, right? I'm not saying that you don't acknowledge that bad things happen. But what we don't want to do is get sucked into that. So I definitely think something that can help you to manifest more money is to actually have a media detox, because the vast majority of the news is sensationalized, one-sided, and you could say is designed to keep you in fear and negativity. There's an email newsletter that I get called the Good News Network. Look that up, subscribe to it, and see, actually, do you know what? Every day you're going to get some good things that are happening. So it help you to, like with your gratitude group, to have that positivity and that gratitude as well. And there's just something else I want to say as well, just coming back to the thing about, you're talking about having a magic number for your retirement, but also for us to have numbers of what exactly it is we're looking to manifest and what we're then going to spend that on. Also, make sure you know your current numbers.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
because
That's that.
where I am now, and then where I want to get to, and what's that gap, that you want to fill. So you want to know your numbers on an ongoing basis, and this is something like in bigger companies, they usually will, maybe they have an in-house, finance person, or if they're bigger, perhaps a whole team. But for those smaller kind of micro businesses, they often don't have that. So please make sure you have things set up in a way. I mean, there's so many systems out there, all these cloud systems that you can use. That means you can literally log in and look at your numbers and make sure that you have that understanding of, where you're at. And I think that's really, it's, if you're a business owner, that is your responsibility. Okay. You cannot delegate that. You can delegate the bookkeeping, absolutely. And you want to delegate tax planning and things like that to trusted advisors. But you need to know your numbers. So I think if you take ownership of your money, then that itself will improve your relationship with money and improve how you can then manifest money.
Absolutely. So that brings you to a very funny point in a conversation we're having about manifestation is budgeting, knowing
Mm,
your numbers, knowing
yeah.
what's coming in, what's going out. You can't work from not knowing where that is. You know, it's a bit like a diagnosis from a doctor for a particular illness. You've got to know where your point is so that you know how to build that particular muscle and get that strength. You've got to know where you're at. You've got to know where you're at to be able to build a plan from. You can't just launch from nowhere. And I think I meet a lot of business owners that are fearful um, of discussing them numbers, feel embarrassed, just don't take an interest in it because anything like that makes them feel really uncomfortable. So working through your uncomfortables and with an advisor does make a massive difference. I can't shout that enough out. Honestly, give it over to somebody else to help you. That doesn't mean don't know your numbers. It means help them guide you through it so you can get that clarity without you having a
Yeah,
road.
be honest and open, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
and actually let those people know what's really going on. Occasionally, I have had people, you probably had the same thing, where I've had, business owners come and they're kind of, maybe I've met them networking and, everything looks really great. And I start talking to them and they're kind of this, and then I start asking them some number of questions because I need to do that to actually assess where people are at and get an understanding of where they want to be. And all of a sudden I see the whole body language change, and they're kind of like, oh well, actually, this, that, and the other, and oh, this has happened, and that's affected my business, and these numbers aren't great, and well, okay, but if you don't face up to that and actually make some plans for it, what's going to change? Nothing. you
yeah.
know, you've got to be able to do that.
Absolutely.
Um,
There's another point that you made earlier about detoxing news and stuff. And one point that may resonate with you, the truth is, bad news sells, guys. Good
totally.
news doesn't
Yeah.
sell. Okay? Journalists don't go around looking for good positive news. They just don't because it doesn't sell. Bad
Yeah.
news sells. So remember that key thing. So when you're listening to a stock market crash and it's on there, it's on the news, it's crashing, it's happening, remember it's selling news. But work with your advisor. I've got clients from I've had a client for a decade now. We've been through market crashes, but they've made on average a return of over 10%. How can that be? We've had a couple of market disasters, but you've got to stick with something and understand as long as your investments or whatever you're putting yourself into is diversified, you're going to be able to ride the storms. Okay. And the whole purpose of you not doing it yourself and having an advisor is to hold your hand. A good advisor will hold your hand through it. So don't always listen to the news. Bad
Yeah.
news sells, good news does not sell. And if it did, I'm
Mm.
sorry to say, well, it's sad, but more people would be making good choices if they kind of shared the
Absolutely.
actual
Yeah.
information. So say we're getting on average this particular client got 10%. It's really weird. If we try to share even good news, it's amazing how much backlash you get from trying to sell good news as well. The backlash you get is amazing because people just want to, like, for instance, I don't know if you've ever tried to help someone on social media, and before you know it, some one person with a negative thinking can change the course of the entire conversation
Yeah.
with a second, and you're thinking, how have they done that?
Yeah, I depart. I don't even try. I'm kind of
And
like,
that's the
okay,
best.
have a good day.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it. But that's politics as well. That's everything. It just takes one person, and it can completely change the outlook of a whole crowd. So in crowd situations, it just takes one person to say there's a fire around the corner. Before you know it, you've got panic everywhere because that one person shouted something out. And that's just me not talking about the papers, it's just talking in general. So be mindful that you are checking in with yourself, okay, and you kind of know how to sift through news. And detoxing is a great thing because I
And you can always set up Google alerts for like industry information or things that you need to know about for your business or for your job, so that you can do that. Um, Okay, so well, listen, I think we've covered a lot. We've
Yeah,
covered a
we
lot
have.
today. And yeah, the one final thing that I want to add into this is as well as working with the financial planners, the accountants, the coaches that are going to help you, please educate yourself. So one of the things I've got as part, I have an online learning platform that people get as part of my programs and coaching. And one of the things in there is actually all about, learning all about the money in your business. And because it's actually, your typical transactional accountant does not share this information with you, and they quite often won't even do this with you.
Mhm.
So I have that to help people understand, so that then I can work with them or help them to be working with an accountant that does, so that they it's, if we educate ourselves on different aspects of money, that in itself is going to help us to attract more money in our lives and in our businesses. So I think one of the key things we talked about here really is ownership, gratitude, and visualization with action, with plans. Okay, get specific in those things. So yeah, fantastic. Well, thank you, Nazia, for joining me here again today with this. I'm really interested to hear. I know we've done a different time today, and then we were late as well. So apologies for that. It was just the way our schedules kind of worked out. Um, and but yeah, please let us know in the comments, what are your thoughts, what have your experiences been, what has worked for you, what hasn't worked for you. We'd love to hear your side of the story as well.
Lovely.
Okay, thank you
Thank you
very
very
much for
much.
being with us today.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye for now.
Bye.